In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Ritz Furniture specializes in quality furniture for affordable prices. Our extensive inventory highlights top brands and provides everything you could ever want. You can count on us for kitchen, dining, bedroom, and living room furniture, no matter what the style is you have in mind. Stop in with your family and look at our amazing selection to find the perfect fit for your home. Contact us today to see how we can make a difference in your home.
Welcome into Inside the SMC, presented by Team F Line Sports. Jake West and Brandon Stevens. Here we are previewing Week 5 of Smoky Mountain Conference teams' football seasons. We will start the show this week as we have the past few weeks. Brandon, who is your biggest winner from Week 4?
Man, that's a good one, because you could probably look up and point to somebody like Robbinsville, who had like a 46-0 shutout over Copper Basin. That was probably a good game to exercise the team, dig yourself out of the dungeon of, I say that figuratively, of the dungeon in Robbinsville, but out of losing to East Surrey, Franklin, and Mountain Heritage right in a row, something to build you back up before you get into the conference side of things. I would sway that way. Also, another good breakout night for Cherokee. I mean, you play Rosman, a little bit weaker team in the region, but 67-7 win there. On the other hand, Murphy needed to have a good win after having a couple close call games with Heard County and then West Henderson. You needed something to play a good, strong team that is doing well this season. Smoky Mountain was one of those. You're playing on a wet Thursday night as opposed to the nice, crisp, clear, wonderful Friday night we had in Western North Carolina. I'd have to say probably props have to go that one as far as a team going to Robbinsville. One, it's not the strongest team in the area, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but win's a win. And at the end of the day, you need something to boost the team. I like Robbinsville. On the other hand, I still like some individuals, and I could sit here and waste the rest of the hour naming them, but I like some people like Brandon Santiago and Cherokee had a nice night for the Cherokee Braves. Couple of nice things coming back in. You see Jonah Hedden from Murphy coming off the injured list. So within those confines, probably Robbinsville. As far as a team and an individual, I like getting to see people coming back off the injured list. Jonah Hedden scored a touchdown, fresh out of his injured reserve days.
Yeah, Hedden was going to be one of the guys I talked about. He came back, played really good for Murphy, but there was a lot of really good performances across the board in the conference. I mean, you look at the Robbinsville stat sheet. Luke Lovin at quarterback, 1 for 1 for 42 yards, and it was a touchdown. Bryce Adams at quarterback, 1 for 1, 46 yards and a touchdown. So very efficient play. Roman Jones, 5 carries, 90 yards and a touchdown. Right. Darian Ledbetter, 4 carries, 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Luke Green, the sophomore, he saw 13 carries, the bulk of the work, for 84 yards and a touchdown. So just very efficient across the board. You mentioned Santiago. One of the names you didn't mention in the Wildcats went up to Mitchell County. Andrews Wildcats went up to Mitchell County. And Everett Tatum played probably the best football game of his career Friday night in the Wildcats' loss to the Mountaineers. So Tatum played well. Just a lot of really good performances across the board. But I think I would say taking it a little differently, who won the weekend? My take would be the not technically the weekend, but the Robbinsville Black Knights JV football team comes to Cherokee County, beats Murphy on their home field in a game we had on FYNTV.com. That was just a dogfight through in from the first snap to the very last snap, where Robbinsville nailed it down and got into victory formation. But a very good football game. It had everything you could ever want in a football game, and you got to see the next generation of athletes from both sides of the field.
I was getting ready to say that exact same thing. I mean, regardless of what happens with this year's team, and you might even get to see them in a couple of weeks, because the JV football season is only a couple of weeks ending. And then those ninth graders have the ability to move up to varsity. Now, you typically don't see them play, but I'll tell you what, there are some who could be contenders. Alton, I like him from Robbinsville. Blake Davis and Anthony Catuto from Murphy doing well. Hey, but just all the way around, I thought that Blevins was a good quarterback. There's a lot of promise from the fans' perspective. We got to see a good game on Monday night, because that was a heck of a football game. Now, if you're Murphy fans, it's a little tough to take, because you worked all that way, the onside kick, and then the interception.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, they were on their horse, they were moving. But both teams have good quarterbacks, and Bain from Murphy and from Blevins from Robbinsville. You've got good running backs. The big thing is keep a good, healthy line, protect and block. And man, we're going to see some exciting football for the next couple of years. I can tell you that.
Yeah, definitely. Switching gears, who lost the weekend, Brandon? We saw Hayesville, Swain, Andrews go down with losses in the books as whole teams, but coming away, who's a little more beat and bruised than all the others from this past weekend?
Kind of graduated back a little bit. I mean, I think somebody probably just sitting somewhere in their armchair watching this broadcast saying, well, Mitchell defeated Andrews 35-34, but anytime you can go up to Ledger, North Carolina, put up 34 points on the Mountaineers, Andrews, I don't think that's necessarily a loss. Obviously, like with Hayesville coming away, being shut out by the Pisgah Bears, 30 to nothing. The big one here, there was the grudge match in between Tuscola and Swain County, 42-8. That one to me is like the loser of as far as a team goes, because one, there was a chip on Tuscola's shoulder. They got beat last year over at CE Weatherby Stadium in Waynesville. This time they're coming into Bryson City. They're going to teach those Devils a lesson, and they did. But also Swain's relatively banged up. There's a lot of youth in that football team. Some really costly mistakes. At least 3 fumbles, 2 right back to back that resulted in scores. Trying to get some things together. The line was looking a little tired. It was not a good night for Swain County, and it was not the typical. And I say this kind of like in a left-handed compliment, that it's not the typical Swain County. And I think you bounce back and forth between the sidelines, and people are like, "This is not us." And they know that they've got some work. I think there were some shining things coming out of it. As Gillespie did some excellent running, and Corey Stillwell, he's a good fixture for the Swain County Maroon Devils. Just not enough. You needed not just saying, well, the line fell down or we didn't execute well. It was a hot mess for Swain County on that one, but get better, do well, and as everybody in the conference is saying about this team, they'll be ready when it comes conference time, and you can bet that everybody, Robbinsville, Murphy, Andrews, Cherokee, everybody will be ready for the conference. They always are.
Yeah, some of the coaches I've talked to about the state of the conference as a whole. People like to get online and say, is Smoky Mountain Conference down for the first time in a while? And while that could be, the synopsis taken away from the non-conference games, all the coaches say, by the time, whether you're talking to Hayesville or Swain or Murphy or anybody, they all say, well, by the time they play us, they'll be a completely different football team. And I think that's true. I mean, that just speaks to the coaching across the whole entire conference. But I think, who lost the weekend for me, it's going to be the same as last week. For me, it's going to be Hayesville. I think Hayesville's a very well-coached football team. Just think that offensively, they haven't been able to put anything together. They have one touchdown in 3 games. They've scored 9 points across 3 games. And while they've played some very formidable opponents, still you've got to find a way to score points, and you've got the athletes to do it. You've got the coaching to do it. You just have to find a way to make things click. And I think that's the same could be said for Swain. They're a very well-coached football team, and they have some really good athletes there. They just have to get over the injury hill and put everything together to finally make it click. But one of those teams is going to have a chance, to get their first win, get back on the horse, kind of in the same sense that Robbinsville did last week, as Hayesville takes on Georgia Force this week, coming off that 30-0 loss, 7-2 loss, 49-7 loss in their first 3 games. They've got Georgia Force Christian this week, who is they're one of the better homeschool teams, but they're still not the Smoky Mountain Conference caliber football program. So what do you see happening in this football game, Brent?
I took a look through the and try to do as much research as you can. And Jake, across the board, this is one of those weeks, either you're open or you've got some homeschool academy organization, foundation type school coming to you, Mount Zion Christian Academy or Georgia Force or Greenville Hurricanes or something. But so it's like the theme this week is like, let's play all the nonprofit homeschool teams. So this week is just before we get into this, and I start repeating like a broken record. It's hard to find film. A lot of these schools don't keep stats. It's just, hey, we come out and play football. Now, Georgia Force, though, is a force because just right there in North Atlanta, they have a good recruiting area. But this year for them, like you say, I mean, they're 5-0. It takes something to do that. I would say this, looking at the opponents that they play, Virginia Spartans, Skipstone Academy, Anderson Cavaliers, Cabarrus Stallions, all the way down to Lanier Christian Academy or something like that. Anyhow, the idea is that they're 5-0, but they are crushing the opponent. I like that. I like that they're that what I could find and what I could see is that they're actually doing. They've got a decent quarterback. They do pass a lot. This is a team that coming into all right, Hayesville defensive secondary better be on your toes because this quarterback Fannin has thrown almost like 80 passes. He's almost got 1,000 yards passing. So that tells you something that you better have your good coverage. You better have linebackers reading and doing the things that they need to do. Of course, obviously breaking back and putting some hurry on the quarterback wouldn't be bad either. But some of these receivers, they're edging up like 300 and 400 yards. So we know it's not going to be like a ground game. I mean, they've got a couple of kids that, but over 5 games when you've only got like 200 yards rushing on one player or your best player. Probably not going to see dives, traps, ISOs, and counters, maybe a jet here or there. But otherwise, Georgia Force could take the Hayesville Yellow Jackets if you're not careful. So the question back to you is, and I know you're more of a student of the Hayesville Yellow Jackets than I am, but just looking at that, can they contain this explosive pass offense? And probably like all these schools, they're not going to be in a mountain Delaware wing tee or running the veer. These guys are spread and they're going to move. And the last time I remember watching Georgia Force, they're fast.
Yeah, definitely they are. And you mentioned, Fanning, the junior quarterback for Georgia Force, 14 touchdowns, just one interception.
Right.
Like you said, when you throw the ball 80 times and you've only got one interception, that's pretty impressive. But I don't know if really Hayesville has seen a team that is going to throw it as many times as Georgia Force has. They saw the Blues, the first team they played, Asheville School. I think that team was 8 for 11 or something like that for a touchdown through the air. So they were pretty efficient. Obviously, Andrews didn't throw the ball much through the air. Pisgah, I don't know, exactly what they looked like, but they threw the ball less than 20 times, just from what I can remember from watching it, and they didn't have any passing touchdowns. So it's definitely going to be a test for this Hayesville secondary. And like you said, Georgia Force is going to put up some points. So it's going to come down to, can Hayesville finally put up some points? Because like we said, 9 points through 3 games this season, 1 touchdown. It's very concerning for this offensive unit that I thought was going to be one of the top units in the Smoky Mountain Conference. So what's going to happen Friday night?
Well, number one, just a little quick follow-up comment. I think that this is not the Georgia Force team that you've normally seen. Ordinarily, you'd probably say, "Oh, Georgia Force is on my schedule. It's an automatic W. We'll just go down and go through the." But you can't be arrogant with this team. This is going to be a team that can move the ball on you with a pass. They threaten. They have speed. They have athletic ability. They put up quite a few points, and they're on a streak. So they've got the hot hand. 35-14 Georgia Force. And I hope that gets some people stirred in Hayesville because, again, this is a team that historically you should look at and say, yeah, we're helping this team out and develop. But no, this is a team that has really gotten to a point after a few years of developing. They've got the right people in the right places.
Yeah, this is a bit like you said it. This is a very good football team this year. They've been good in the past, has Georgia Force. But I still think on the flip side of that, Hayesville, things have got to fall into place at some point. And why not this week at home against Georgia Force? I think it's going to come down to a couple turnovers. And while Hayesville has not been very good this season at holding on to the football, I just think they turn the corner this week and win this football game. Maybe 21-14. It's close. It's been close in the past, I think, when these two teams have faced each other. But and I think it'll be close again. But I do think Hayesville comes away with a victory. But would it surprise me, like you said, if Georgia Force won this football game? Absolutely not, because Georgia Force is probably the top Christian school in their little independent school conference or classification. I know they've won their state championship in previous years, and it looks like they're going on a run again this year. So I think if I could watch a game Friday night and didn't want to travel all the way to Tryon, Georgia, to watch Robbinsville and Tryon play, then I would probably just go to Clay County and watch this game, because even though this is a home school football team, it's still a very good football team, and this is going to be a good football game on Friday night in Clay County. But let's stick with the homeschoolers. Let's save Robbinsville and Tryon for last. Let's go to Calhoun Falls Charter versus Andrews. Andrews Falls, an unsuccessful 2-point conversion with 30 seconds left up in Mitchell County, and the Mountaineers snatch a victory from Andrews. But I mean, it's been a topic of discussion, but I really like the decision from Coach Phillips to, you're on the road. You fought your way back into this ball game. You score a touchdown. You can either kick the extra point and tie it, probably go into overtime, or you can go for 2 and try to win this football game on the road early in the season, non-conference football game. Why not try to win the game in regulation, when you're in enemy territory? But what do you think about the Cats and their effort last week against Mitchell? And then tell us what you see coming up with Calhoun Falls.
Oh, well, number one, kudos to Coach Phillips for that, because anytime that you're presented with that situation and you've got to put a lot of trust into your team, that Andrews Wildcat football players, your coach trusts you and has a lot of confidence in you. So I think that was pretty good. I mean, you come up a little short. Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. And in this case, a couple more good games to get you before you go into the conference. Calhoun Falls Charter. And by the way, I think you're exactly right. Give a few props and good words to Tatham Everett is doing really well with guiding the team. At least hitting probably about 50% of his passes. His passing game's coming along. Get a little more production. Squeeze a little more juice out of people like Eli Aguilar and Rattler. I think that this is a solid team. This is a team that can a little bit later can contend in the conference. It'll win some football games. A couple in front of it though. Calhoun, Charter Falls, South Carolina. Didn't know the town existed until we had to do a little research for this for the show. This one. Not exact. Now this one, homeschool. This is not exactly exciting. This is not a Georgia Force football team.
Yeah,
it's lost a couple and won a couple. Greenwood Christian, American Leadership Academy. There was another team over in Williston, South Carolina. When they win, they win big. When they lose, it's not a good effort. Quite simply, I'm not going to sit here and stumble around and say, they've got a good passing game, and because I don't know, you can't find anything out. I was really difficult to find film, just based on what I could see with this. I'm giving a guess, stab in the dark. 28 nothing. Here is I think the Wildcats will get this could be a good breakout game for what we're talking about too. Bandage up what I was saying, get a little more Rattler, Aguilar action. Just exercise the team, because I don't think, just honestly speaking, this is the one that has the gusto, the vim, the verve to knock you off your horse. Wildcats could have a good night with this one.
I agree. I think your score prediction is probably correct as far as. I don't think they're going to allow a point to this team. Andrews is very tough in the trenches. They showed their tenacity last Friday night against Mitchell, and this is just going to be I don't know if it's homecoming in Andrews as well, but I do know it's homecoming.
Well, it won't be homecoming there because they go to.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. So even though they do have to, make the trip to Calhoun Falls, I still think that they win this football game pretty easily, and they get some of their younger guys some playing time and use it as a game to get some of their guys on the mend. We're nearing, even though they have had this Andrews in particular has had their bye week, we're nearing, the end of non-conference play. You want to get your guys back rested and as much as you can. So I'm thinking go up early, 21-0 at halftime, pull your starters, and then your other your backups come in and put another couple scores on the board. But this game, as well as the next one we're fixing to talk about, Murphy and Greenville Hurricanes are not very highly anticipated football games, to say the least. But Murphy was able to come away with a victory against Smoky Mountain on the road last Thursday night. That was a game that went back and forth, but the Dogs looked good, and once again come away with a one-score victory over a good Smoky Mountain team. And Coach JT Postel, what a great job he has done turning that program around over there in Silva.
Yeah, I think Smoky Mountain's been for the past couple of seasons. They've had a lot of really good players. It's just need a little bit of tender love and care. And Postel is doing, I think, as you're saying. Well, one, he's got a lot of good tools to work with. A lot of good players. When you look at Aiden Johnson, I keep singing his praises from the highest mountain point, and then Jarek Jones, really good quarterback. And the line did well. They blocked, they protected, just wasn't enough. And you saw the amazing beauty of this team that they come away first play, and it's almost like a 90-yard, it's a touchdown that they run and really knock the lights out, and had all the Murphy fans just drooping. It was like, we're in the rain on a Thursday night, and we're playing this team, and it's going to be bad. No, Murphy came around, and one of the things that I noticed, you don't have as many like little ticky-tack costly penalties or turnovers. They've cleaned that up. Still have quite a few holding penalties that kind of shot yourself in the foot a bit. But in the overall, Smoky Mountain made a few mistakes that could have turned the football game. You turn over the football in the end zone, and it's just not some good things that they did. I don't think the rain or anything like that, or playing on a Thursday night, made any difference. I think it was just as we're writing up just some good old smash mouth football from time to time, and that's what carried each other through. 22-14. Yeah, you're right. This one, but at one point it was like 22-7. It was expanding out there. Mustangs got on top. Bulldogs came back away. I think there was still some good play from all. I like the fact that Jonah Hedden got a touchdown. Cameron Clem ran into touchdown town. Brady Grant called his own number. Otherwise, some still good play. I think the good defenders still coming from your linebackers like Cadence Leatherwood, a few others just out there top. Brody Orton, Camden Brazil is back in. Looks like the bionic man with the arm and everything, but he's able to wrap you up. So in that, it was a good football game for the Murphy Bulldogs to advance their progress. Are they in the promised land? Not quite yet. And I think that's what, when I talked to the team this week, yeah, there's some mistakes. We had a bad Franklin game, really close Heard County game, and West Henderson was touch and go. Smoky Mountain, we put a little lead in our pencil. We're getting ready to write some good prose going on down the rest of the season if you stay healthy.
Yeah, it's a good win. Back-to-back weeks with good wins for this Murphy team. The West Henderson win and then the Smoky Mountain win kind of gets you back on track after stumbling out of the gate versus Franklin and getting molly-whopped at home against the Panthers. But, yeah, like you said, getting back on track. And then this week –
Greenville.
Yeah, not much. I mean, this is kind of like the Calhoun Falls team that Andrews is playing. Murphy, you can see on the bottom, scrolling across the screen there, just real quick. Hayesville's a 3-point favorite at home versus Georgia Force. Tryon is a 19-point favorite versus Robbinsville. Murphy, a 41-point favorite versus Greenville. Andrews, 36-point favorite versus Calhoun. And Cherokee, a 38-point favorite versus Mount Zion. But, yeah, I think the 41-point thing is pretty close. I asked some of the kids, what they thought of this Greenville Hurricanes team. They said, they had some athletes, but they kind of remind them of a New Faith team or someone like that, where, it's not complete football team, just a couple of athletes on either side of the football.
So a couple of things to note. I think what we can see and what what limited video, what limited things we could dig up. They've got a really good quarterback. They have some exceptionally good running backs. The Cade Baldwin is the senior quarterback. There are a couple others that we can mention, but let's just get right to the point of this. Is that Greenville is a pass team. They're a lot shorter than, if you're looking just at size, you're going to see a shorter team. If the roster is correct, if the video is accurate, we can see that most of these players average about 5'11", a little bit over 200 pounds. It's a big portly team that's going to come after you. The Murphy Bulldogs better be ready, but they'll also better be ready for looking at or finding a pass that's coming from this team. Not exactly the most stable quarterback that you're probably going to ever see, but this one, let's just get to it. My prediction for this one was 42-0 for Murphy taking over the Greenville Hurricanes. But with inside that, this one should be a nice game. One, let some of your players convalesce that are injured or just on the sidelines. Have some breakout nights. I think maybe this might be a nice night to get a few numbers. Cameron Clem or even Jonah Hedden and Cadence Leatherwood. I like Cadence's attitude and the way he works with being a running back. Is like, I don't care if I run 99 yards, get down to the one, and then they hand it off over to Jonah or to Cameron or somebody, or flip it out to Will Shore. I just want to get the points, want to get the win. Good team player. I like how he's playing. He doesn't have many. Stats saying, "Oh, he's got 1,000 yards already to see." He's just in there to make things happen. I like attitude. I like having more players kind of with that thought in mind. But again, could be a breakout night to see some numbers go up. Obviously against the Georgia Hurricane.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I mean, 35-0, 42-0. Probably however many points they decide that they want to score. But I would like to see, the defense pitch a shutout, because there have been plays each game that it seems like, nobody's been home. You mentioned the first play against Smoky Mountain where, kind of a little bit of a breakdown. I think the defense has played really well as a whole, but pitching a shutout here, even though it is against Greenville, would be good for their confidence, I think, going forward. But yeah, I think Murphy runs away with this one pretty easily. And I think moving into the next game we're going to talk about, Cherokee ran away with their game against Rosman last week, and they're going to run away with their game against Mount Zion this week. Cherokee, though, things are coming together for the Braves and head coach Tim Hawkins.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you're probably right. This is Mount Zion Christian Academy coming out of I think most Western North Carolina teams somewhere they faced it, because I think that Mount Zion Christian Academy, they figured out that old mountain football can be a good teacher to a lot of folks, especially if you want to try to take a hit, and not just running the spread and play dodgeball all night. They come up quite a bit, but this is not the best. They played two teams twice. Hobgood Charter, first time crushed them 38-6. Next time, not so much. According to Max Preps, it was a 2-0 win. So some things not probably going right, or there's something just not quite in good in the stew pot. But 2-2, these folks, I think they're your typical spread type offense. I mean, just like most. There's a guy named Keegan Carroll who's averaging for them about 120 yards passing. Again, last game that they had, they were half and half, 160 yards passing, 160 yards rushing. So that was still in a loss to Harold's Christian Academy, and that one was relatively close, 14-6. But my thought here, Jake, is this one is a Cherokee football game, and minimum 42-8 is the score there. Some people like Brandon Santiago, Saylor, Smith, they all get on their horse and move. This could be a good night to celebrate the Braves.
Yeah, I agree. Their things are falling into place for Cherokee. They're, just by the numbers, the best passing team in the conference with Saylor and their wide receiving core. Luke Smith is one of the guys that doesn't get talked about enough, and everything that he brings to the table on both sides of the football. So I would not overlook this Cherokee football team.
Did I mention this last week? Talking with Coach Hawkins, I was like, really, if you guys can eliminate the turnovers, take care of the football, execute well, your team grows and builds by a factor of 5, maybe more. I mean, really, I think looking at Cherokee, they've got a lot of good tools in the bag to make things happen. It's just a little bit of execution and taking care of the ball. And he's like, yeah, you're right. But he's like, kind of sweating it coming down to the end of September. The Cherokee Indian Fair's coming up, and about half my team plays Indian stickball, and that is not a contest that you come out of typically medicine cabinet hurt. So he's he's worried not that football is going to take him out, but if they get a little too aggressive at the stickball field in Cherokee and the Indian Fair, might have a few injuries that sideline him for the first conference game or so. But now. That's really a good heritage thing. If anybody hasn't seen that, I invite you to come over and check that out.
Definitely. Let's see. We've got Swain County on a bye. We mentioned that they lost last week. They'll try to get back on their horse and recover from some injuries. The last football game we've got to talk about is Robbinsville heading over to Tryon, Georgia. They are, as far as the computers are concerned, a underdog by a couple scores in this football game. So before you tell us, Brandon, and we'll talk about this once again, before you tell us your thoughts, not much to say about last week's game. They jumped on Copper Basin and never looked back, but their offense seemed to be clicking. Obviously, the defense was. No points allowed in that one. So, I mean, they're in a good spot here to go play spoiler to a Tryon team that has state championship aspirations in Georgia. But just want to mention this. Join our friends over at WZQZ on their Facebook page Friday night for a free live stream of the Robbinsville and Tryon football game. Our friends at WZQZ, they do a really good job. It'll be a really good broadcast. And they have been covering Tryon for the past few years. They also cover Chattooga over in Georgia, some of the teams in our Georgia coverage area. But these guys do a good job. It's a good broadcast. It's free on their Facebook page. Just go to the WZQZ. You'll see that blue logo on their Facebook page, and the game will be broadcast for free. But breaking down this football game, Brandon, what do you see happening on Friday night in Tryon?
All right, let's do it this way. Ordinarily, we ramble on about what we think's going on with the team and how they're going to go. I'll jump out and say my research leading up to this. I feel like Robbinsville can post some points here, but I think that Tryon might be a little bit much. But I don't think it's going to be like like an embarrassing shutout game or blowaway that it's going to be relatively close, I think. So some good work if you can get the guys in the trenches. Let me start 21-18 Tryon. That's what I'll say. Now let me back into that and say why I think that. Number one, when looking through Tryon, of course, a school that you don't know as much about, and you're like, gosh, who these guys play? They've blown away their competition, and trying to dig into the Temple Tigers and Gordon Lee Trojans and and everybody else that they've played. These are some relatively good teams that come through their region. Their teams are 3-1, 2-2 in the season, so they're not bad, and they haven't played bad teams. So I went through and looked at all these schools, of who they've played, so the strength of their wins. So when they're coming along playing, and you see like, well, who are these guys from the Gordon Lee Trojans? These are good teams. And I'm impressed with the fact that they play well. Now let's flip the page on over and tell you that this is some team that obviously they've got some skill, they've got some speed. You're seeing it. What are we watching here, Jake?
This is the closest thing I could find to a Robbinsville team that Tryon has played so far. If I can get this video to play, This is some of Tryon's highlights against Dade County Wolverines. That game was 31-28. Dade County had a fumble, turned it over, and Tryon took home the victory, but I guess this video is not gonna play. But a very good football team in Tryon, and Dade County reminds me a lot of what Robbinsville brings to the table. So if I can get this to play, I will. But go ahead with what you're saying.
All right. I think though, within inside of a few things, how can you counteract and make? Hold on. Let's watch the play here. Nice little pass. Hits his man, screen pass.
Yeah, they're going to throw the ball quite a bit with their quarterback. He finds, soft spots in the defense, and his receivers uses his big tight end a lot. He throws well on the run, as you can see there. So, you mentioned Hayesville's defensive backs being tested against Georgia Force. The Robbinsville defensive secondary is definitely going to be tested here against Tryon. Last year, they had a guy named Toby Maddox, and they just kind of ground and pound the rock with him. But now they've got this very good quarterback, and they just sling the ball around.
I like the way, and it's going to be dangerous out there in those corners. There's little slip and bubble screens that launches out. Of course, look about it on the field. You just better be ready and shadow some of these. So do you play man? You play zone? And then the big thing here is get some production out of your front line. You got to hurry the quarterback and get back into the backfield. I see who's Robbinsville, Collins, Adams, Hedden, Quinn Jumper, a couple of these guys leading the way in tackles. You've got to get after these guys, or they'll burn you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cade Smith, not only can he hurt you with his arm, but he can also hurt you with his legs. And with this game being at Tryon, I mean, this is going to be a real test for Robbinsville. They've played a very hard schedule so far, but this one, being so close to conference time, it's time to, strap up and put on your best face heading forward into conference time, because they lost to East Surrey on the road, close football game. Lost to Franklin on the road, 30-7, not the closest contest. And then 28-13, they lost to Mountain Heritage at home. So heading back on the road, going to Tryon. This is are we going to? This is going to kind of decide for me. Is this a contending Robbinsville football team in the fact that they hang with Tryon? Or is this a team that hasn't put it all together yet and may struggle heading into conference if they go to Georgia and get blown out by the Bulldogs?
I think the answer to your question there is if we don't see any other game, I think it's kind of a hybrid of both scenarios that you post. Get unified. You have all the tools. You've got a really good rushing leader out of Roman Jones. Darian Ledbetter does really well with receiving, and Bryce Adams hasn't exactly done bad at a quarterback. Out of about 50 tosses, he's connecting on about 25. He's 50%. I mean, the numbers are good. The work is good. Again, it's really just coming out of how much protection can you give, how much penetration and rushing, how many attacks can you make on the team to stop them? And that's just going in. When you look at the whole system of how many points Robbinsville has allowed, it kind of gives you some thoughts to bone up the defense a little bit more. You've allowed and it's not been that bad, but 21 points to East Surrey, 30 points to Franklin, 28 points to Mountain Heritage. But again, those are some really tough teams. And again, those are some learning sessions to get things built up. But I think, again, in the trenches, that's where the strength needs to be built for Robbinsville. And I think once that falls into place, you've got some really good skill players from the quarterback to the receivers to the running back. So I say look out. Robbinsville is a moment away from really really turning some heads and doing some great things this season and being very competitive. I've heard some people cross away. Well, Swain's down this year, and Robbinsville, has been on that 3-game losing streak. I'm not counting Copper Basin. Murphy's going to take the conference. That's chickens before they hatch, and I think that this is the team that really, if they get on the same page, this could be a really good year for Robbinsville going forward.
Yeah, I think so too. I really think this is make or break. Like I said, you've got to compete in this ball game. You can't go and get blown out on the road. So what do you think score wise? What's your prediction in this one?
I told you right at the beginning, 21-18. Remember, I backed into it backwards.
True.
But 21-18 Tryon at this point. And, I didn't come at that lightly, but I'm thinking like, all right, that's the honest feeling and the honest things that you can look at. But I think also I want it to be kind of a motivational factor too for Robbinsville to, make me like eat a big bowl of crow next week and say, get Roman Jones back after me again. Like after the Murphy game last year. So
I think, from what I've seen from Tryon and with this game being on the road, I think it may be a little more spread out. 28-14 is what I'm going to say. I've seen Tryon play this year. Like I said, the team that they've played that reminds me the most of Robbinsville is the Dade County team, and that game was 31-28. But that game was at Dade, and Magic Morgan is a heck of a place to go play. So with this game being on the road, I think Tryon comes away with a 2-score victory. I don't think they cover the 19-point spread, but I do think Tryon comes away with a victory in this one. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong because I would like to rub it into my Georgia friends and colleagues' faces that mountain football can go anywhere and get a victory, but
right.
We'll see. Once again, I'll be there Friday night. WZQZ, our friends, will be live streaming the football game live for free on their Facebook page. We will put the WZQZ link up on our Facebook page to direct you and share that game. We'll just share the entire game stream on our Facebook page as well to make it easy to find. So. Some good games coming up this week. Maybe not the best slate we've ever had in football. Swain on the bye, Murphy and Greenville, Cherokee, Mount Zion, Calhoun Falls and Andrews, Robbinsville and Tryon, Hayesville and Georgia Force. If you don't want to go to Tryon, Georgia, go to Clay County, watch Hayesville and Georgia Force. That should be a good football game. Brandon, any other thoughts to take away here as we?
No, it's just not really, but I'll just say this. It's almost beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And what I mean by that being silly, because everybody says, it seems like time is just slipping away. It wasn't too long ago we were doing the first one of these shows, getting through the non-conference, either next week or a week after. Smoky Mountain, it really will be inside the SMC because we're going to be into conference play within a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
right at the end of this month, 1st of October. And it's going to be some exciting times, but that time will evaporate through smoke through a keyhole. And I think for too long we'll be looking at who's going to the playoffs and whatnot. But this season seems like it's just moving really quick. And for too long, again, we're going to a couple of weeks this week and maybe next week of getting the homeschoolers and some of the other non-conference games off your schedule, and then boom. I'm excited, ready to see conference play getting up and going and how things will flush out there. But otherwise, I want to mention because we did broadcast we did stream the JV football game. The Murphy Bulldogs, they will take on Swain in Bryson City. And then Robbinsville, they get Andrews up there at the Big Oaks this week. So those guys are going to be a little tired puppy dogs and black knights after this week. But I was really, really charged up, and I'm excited as we look back. JV football, that's been pretty cool this week.
Yeah, definitely has been fun. Go back on FYTV.com, our YouTube, our Facebook, and rewatch that game. It's worth watching from start to finish. It was very good, very very exciting football game on Monday night between the two JV programs. But Brandon, that'll do it for us. This has been week 5 of Inside the Smoky Mountain Conference presented by Team FYN Sports.